at the model of the country today, we got a huge problem with leadership, and it's only going to get worse. How many of you have heard the comment about, we just don't have any leaders running for office? Have you ever considered the fact that the reason we don't have any leaders running for office is because there's not even as many leaders as there used to be? One of the problems is people have taken so much interest in learning technical, learning management, learning finances as a way to move up through an organization. They either forget to pick up the tacit learning that occurs with becoming a leader, or the people that have worked with them and above them forget the minimum. I think we miss a huge opportunity with instructors being the developers of our future leaders. And as Peter Ducker said, the best way to predict the future is to create it. The best way to predict what kind of future leadership the fire service and rescue service is going to have is to participate in developing it. So whose job is it to prepare our next group of leaders? John F. Kennedy might have said it best when he said leadership and learning are indispensable to one another. While you're learning, you should be learning to lead. While you're teaching, you should be teaching to lead. So what's our job? This is a group of instructors. And the benefit to teaching a conference like this is if you speak at a normal conference, you've got a plethora of individuals in the room. You may have instructors, you may have chiefs, you may have firefighters, you may have rescue techs, you may have EMTs. So you've got to sort of generate your presentation around all that. This morning I get to speak to instructors. You people are the ones that go out and teach. So I'm going to try and impress upon you before the morning's over that it's not only your job, but it's your responsibility to help us prepare the future leadership of the North Carolina Fire and Rescue Services. I don't want to comment on age too much, but take a look at the boards of your state associations. I mean, occasionally you'll find a young person moving in around there, but most of the people who are on the boards are getting pretty close to retirement. In some cases, they're pretty close to being retired. And if you look down the line behind them, following them, you got to ask yourself, who's being prepared to step in and move into those positions? But I was reading through Firehouse magazine last month. Society is starving for quality leadership, and it's no different in the fire service. Firehouse magazine, 2010. Let me read you what, if I can see it. Let me read you what Warren Bennis said. And Warren Bennis is the one that wrote the book Leaders. Let me read you what he says. Unlike the possibility of plague or nuclear holocaust, the leadership crisis will probably not become the basis for a bestseller or a blockbuster movie, but in many ways it is the most urgent and dangerous of the threats we face today as a nation, if only because it is insufficiently recognized and little understood. I mean, we got to wake up to the fact that if we don't prepare leaders ourselves, we're going to leave our service in bad shape. Now, you can move around and find pockets where there are a lot of areas where good leaders have been prepared and brought along. You can find some areas, though, that still have 76-year-old fire chiefs, and the reason they're still fire chiefs is they haven't got anybody along to come in and take their place. How many of you ever heard the comment, the problem we have today is we train company officers on everything but leadership. They get into a company officer position, they know the trucks, they know the equipment, they know fire tactics, but they don't know the first thing about leadership. You ever heard that comment? Well, whose fault is that? Well, hopefully by the time we're finished this morning, we can talk about it. What's your influence? Huge. One of the most focused ways to draw someone's attention to learning characteristics or learning the way that people influence, to pick up traits, is for somebody to have not what I would call a hero worship, but a respect for an individual. And instructors, in many cases, pick that up automatically. You come in and you're well qualified, you're well trained, you're interested, people pay attention to you. What better avenue than that is it to display to those individuals leadership characteristics? So your influence as an instructor is huge. And as Walter Lippmann said, the final test of a leader is that they leave behind them in others the conviction and will to carry on. If we don't do that, we really haven't done our job. According to Ray Blunt's article, and I'll show you this because you can download it free off the internet. It's actually a PDF format. Growing Leaders for Public Service. It's a pretty good article. And I'm going to use some of it in here today. But according to Ray Blunt's Growing Leaders for Public Service, the way people learn to be a leader is work-based experience, 42%. Now, I've heard the comment, well, we don't provide company officers any leadership classes before they become a company officer. Well, what does this say? 42% of the leadership characteristics, the good leadership characteristics of leader today are absorbed by work-based experience. 2, relationship with senior leaders. You're an instructor. Like it or not, you're a senior leader. Self-awareness and reflection. I had a little trouble understanding that one, but then I finally figured out by reading a little more in depth what he meant was learning the hard way. And then leadership training, reading, etc., 16%. So we're not talking about leadership classes as the primary way to develop leaders. We're talking about following and measuring and absorbing the characteristics of good leaders around us.